Hello and welcome to day 212 of Dungeon23, the series where we make a room of a mega dungeon every day for a year. And today is going to be the last day of the water level, and because of that we're going to have a final boss, and that is this diver thing here, which is very obviously just the big sister from Bioshock 2, because Bioshock has absolutely wonderful character design and aesthetics. However, the story is atrocious. So we're just gonna steal this little character design and then ignore everything else about Bioshock, except for music. The music is probably the best part about the games. And then a little bit below that is the art design and direction and the aesthetic. And then there's a very, 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 very large gap. And then we get to our story. Man, Bioshock story sucks. Anyway, so it's basically the big sister from Bioshock 2. It has a HP count of 120 and 16 for AC. And I forgot to mention this, but the Lost Diver, which is what we're going to call this thing, has the valve needed to open the exit attached to its suit. I'm going to put suit in quotation marks because it's not really its suit, it's really just it. So, valve, there we are. Now, before we get to its actual character sheet, I want to talk about this little area here and how to get into it. Firstly, these are just pillars that go up to the ceiling, so the party has something to hide behind. And we also have down here a 3-digit lock door, and as you can see it has 75 HP and 18 AC, so the party can break it down if they want to, but they're probably going to be able to solve the actual puzzle, which is probably going to be easier. So it is a stone door, just massive door. I'm not really good at describing the way a lock works, but you've seen the locks before on like a 3-digit combination lock on a briefcase or a locker. You just rotate the little discs, and then on each side there's a number of 0 through 9. When they all line up on the right code, then it opens. And that's how this works. When the 3 numbers are 4, 5, and 1, then it opens. And again, that is a reference to Bioshock, which is in fact a reference to System Shock, which is a reference to the password for the office building where the developers were set up at, which in turn was a reference to the Ray Bradbury book Fahrenheit 451. And if anyone says that it's not a reference to 451, it is in fact only a reference to there, tell that person that they are an imbecile, because why would they choose that number in the first place unless it was a reference to the Ray Bradbury novel. Now, other than the fact that metagaming the password is kind of the puzzle because that's how it works in all the other games it's used in, that's obviously not something we super want to have in our games. So there is places to get the password. The psychic octopus knows it. It can be found inside the stomach of the regenerating shark. It swallowed a stone tablet that has it engraved on it. And also, I've decided that it is written in the bottom corner of the final page of the Enduring Spellbook. Which is funny because 451 is allegedly the temperature at which paper burns. And the spellbook is enchanted to not burn. So, that's funny. And yeah, that's basically the door done, little arena set up. So let's talk about our... I just realized that this JPEG I have has the little sister riding on her back. So hopefully the party doesn't realize that either, otherwise they're going to explain why a child is just not drowning. The obvious answer being that I'm too lazy to draw my own token. Anyway, let's go look at the actual stat sheet for this thing. And here we have the stat sheet for our final boss. Again, I don't think I explicitly said so, but its name is the Lost Diver just because it's really the best I came up with on a short notice because I couldn't think of anything better. And it is a medium construct because it is technically a golem, or at least it is loosely based off of a golem that was the clay golem, but has been modified to be maybe not so difficult. But I don't know, maybe I feel like some of these monsters have been a bit too easy. I don't know. We'll ramp up the difficulty in the next floor. And I just realized I messed up this guy here. So, the Lost Diver. It is a medium construct, unaligned. Well, it is aligned. It's aligned with the wizard who created it, controls it, but there's no morality of it. It's not an intelligent creature. It technically is intelligent, but it's not really. It has an armor class of 16. It has 120 HP, which is what we've already established. It has a speed of 15 feet, which doesn't really come up because it's never going to leave the water, really. And it has a swim speed of 40 feet. For stats, it has a +4 to strength, a -1 for dex, a +4 to con, a -2 to intelligence, a -1 to wisdom, and a -4 to charisma. Very similar to how most golems are statted out. It's a little bit smarter and a little bit weaker, but generally it's about the same. It has a +3 to proficiency, and it is not immune to normal weapons, which most golems are. Just because I didn't give the party that many magical weapons, and they don't have access to adamantine yet. And because I feel like golems are one of the monsters that quickly devolves into a, well, we can't really damage it too well, so we're just going to grapple it and drag it around while we just fail at combat. Because I've heard it happen before, and I've had that happen to me with different creatures, and I just want to avoid that. So it has no real resistances, but it is immune to poison and psychic damage, which is understandable. It is vulnerable to none, and like all golems, it is immune to charmed, exhaustion, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. It doesn't really have any skills. It has blind sight for 60 feet, so not just dark vision, but full-on blind sight, and passive perception of 9 because it's a -1 to wisdom. Going down to its abilities, it has a mutable form, magic resistance, and magic weapons, which all golems have. Mutable form basically means it cannot have its shape or form altered in any way. It can't be polymorphed, it can't be shape changed, it can't be infected with lycanthropy, it can't be enlarged or reduced. Anything that would alter it in any way physically just does not work. It has magic resistance, which means advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. So any of the wizard subclass abilities, any of the other classes that let you do extra damage with saves and stuff like that where it's magical. And finally, magic weapons. Its weapon attacks are magical for the sake of overcoming resistances. Not really going to come up here because the only thing it really could affect really is the barbarian, but also not really because barbarians are not immune to non-magical piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning. They're immune to all bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. Now, it has a special little ability I call pseudo-legendary resistance. Legendary resistance is a ability given to more difficult monsters and bosses and things that are going to be a big fight, and you don't want them to go down too easily, so it lets them automatically pass a save, and they usually have 2 or 3 a day, or maybe even 4 if they're like super legendary or mythical. And this is a pseudo-legendary effect, so it's not as good as that. Basically, once a day, it could re-roll a failed save, but it must use the new re-roll. So you cast Fireball, it fails, it re-rolls, and it has to use the new one whether it's a pass or a fail. And that's its passive abilities. And for its actions, it has Slam, which is basically how its primary melee effect, and it does 2d10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, plus 7 to hit. If the target is a creature that is large or smaller, it must succeed a DC 15 con save, or have the wind knocked out of it, which basically means the target falls prone and immediately begins drowning if it is submerged underwater, which in this case it will be because it is an underwater combat encounter. It has a harpoon. It is a ranged weapon attack, and it is not like a traditional attack. I tried making it work a bit better, or rather in a way I wanted to, where it's like a spell effect, where it's a line where it can affect multiple creatures instead of just one. So hopefully this comes across intuitively. Basically, it's a 30-foot line, and the creatures that are within that line must make a DC 12 save. In this case, it should be Dexterity. Or they'll take 2d6 minus 1 piercing damage because it is a dexterity-based attack, so it can be minus 1 for damage because that's what the modifier is. And if the target is huge or smaller, it must succeed on a strength contest, which basically means they both make strength checks, and the one that is higher wins, and if the Lost Diver wins, then the other creature is pulled up to 20 feet towards it, so it could really move you around if it wants to. And the final ability it has, which is basically the haste ability from the clay golem, which is what this thing was based on. It recharges on a 5-6, so it can use it once off the bat, but every time after it has to roll a 5 or 6 on a d6 before it can use it on its turn. Otherwise it has to do something else. And until the end of its next turn, the Lost Diver magically gains +2 to its AC for a total of 18. And it has advantage on dex saves and can use its slam attack as a bonus action. Doesn't actually double its speed, but actually let me change this. Slam attack or dash. So yeah, I'll change it so it can dash as a bonus action on its turn, but it means it doesn't get a second slam attack. And that is basically our little final boss guy, lady, creature thing. It's really just a hollow suit. Maybe the party could try to repair it and turn it into a suit. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to kind of see what happens with that. But yeah, no real point going back to that floor because it's the last room, so we're basically done with it. Hopefully we have some good ideas for the next floor, and if you want to see those ideas, then consider subscribing to the channel and turn on notifications. And if you like this video, consider liking the video, obviously, and comment your suggestions for the next floor down below because I am really running low on ideas. I'm running out of steam. My steam has thoroughly run out, and I'm trying to make more, but it's difficult because I have a full-time job, and I'm running 1 game a week, and 1 every other week, or 2 every other week, so I'm getting burned out. So yeah, thanks for watching and or listening. I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.